What if we told you that everything you know about human history is wrong? That our story doesn't begin with crude stone tools and grunting ancestors, but with sophisticated cities and an advanced understanding of the universe? What if, tens of thousands of years before the first pyramids were built, a forgotten civilization thrived, only to be meticulously erased from time? This is the story of Aethel, a civilization that flourished an astonishing 97,0 years ago, not in Mesopotamia or along the Nile, but on a vast, green continent, now lost beneath the waves of the North Atlantic. Their echoes whisper to us from the most unexpected corners of our planet. Prepare to journey to a time when humanity looked to the stars not with fear, but with understanding. A time they built a society founded on balance and the wisdom of balance we are still desperately trying to rediscover. This isn't a history lesson to put you to sleep. This is an awakening. Our story begins 97 millennia ago. The Earth was a different canvas. The great ice sheets were gathering, but in the North Atlantic, a secret landmass, larger than any island today, was warmed by volcanic lifeblood. This was the continent of Aethel. Amidst towering, ancient forests and the along coastlines where glowing waves crashed against obsidian cliffs, a civilization blossomed. The people, the Aethelans, were not primitive. Their advancement wasn't in gears and steam, but in a profound mastery of natural energies, material science, and the cosmos. Imagine cities that weren't built, but grown. Organic extensions of the landscape, carved from living rock or cultivated from bioluminescent fungi, shimmering with an inner light. Their homes weren't just shelters. They were living spaces that adapted to the seasons, purified the air, and deregulated their own temperature. Their society wasn't ruled by kings or emperors, but by a council of elders known as the luminaries. They were chosen not for wealth, but for wisdom and the empathy. They interpreted the Great Code not as a set of laws, but universal principles discovered through generations of deep observation. It was a society built on balance. Individual freedom was matched with communal responsibility, and the spiritual growth was valued above all else. They had no more currency, no more armies, and their conflicts were purely philosophical. The Aethelans were masters of astronomy. Their observatories, intricate systems of polished obsidian mirrors and the liquid crystal lenses, charted the stars with a precision we've only recently rediscovered. They saw the great cosmic dance and they understood that it held the keys to existence. And it was through this celestial knowledge that they foresaw their own end, the slow, creeping advance of the great ice, a harbinger of a cataclysm that would change the world forever. For millennia they flourished, a beacon of enlightenment, utterly forgotten by the history we think we know. The Aethelans achieved a level of science we can barely comprehend, not by conquering nature, but by harmonizing with it. Their philosophy was centered on vibrational resonance, the idea that all matter, from a tiny crystal to a planet, vibrates at a specific frequency. Their technology, therefore, wasn't powered by brute force, but by tuning these natural energies. Think about their transportation. They didn't build noisy, polluting trains. Instead, they used silent, levitating sky skiffs. These craft floated along pathways of bioengineered rock, which amplified the Earth's natural magnetic field. Journeys were swift, silent, and they left zero environmental footprint. It wasn't magic. It was an applied physics that made our modern engines look primitive and inefficient. Even more astonishing was their bioalchemy, a deep understanding of genetics and the life force. They could accelerate growth cycles, cultivating specialized foods in small gardens with minimal effort. Illness was almost non-existent. They saw disease as a simple disruption of the body's natural energetic harmony. Cures involved sound therapy, light bathing, and the mineral-infused water's a holistic approach that allowed Aethelans to live vibrant, healthy lives well beyond 200 years. All this knowledge wasn't for personal gain. It was a communal resource dedicated to freeing up time for what truly mattered: art, philosophy, and the contemplation. At the very heart of their society was the Great Code. It wasn't a book of rules, but a simple, profound philosophy lived by every citizen. It had three core tenets. First, Aethel, meaning balance. Do not take more than you need, and you always replenish the source. Second, Lumari, or responsibility. The well-being of the whole is the well-being of the individual. Your talent is your gift to the community. And the third sin, which means clarity, seek truth through unbiased observation, because personal gain clouds judgment. Their art was a reflection of this balance. They created intricate, non-rhythmic ambient music using instruments made of resonating crystals. This music wasn't just for entertainment. It was used to heal, encourage deep meditation, and harmonize the entire community. Children weren't sent to schools. Instead, they were seekers, guided by mentors to discover the great code for themselves through direct interaction with the world. Learning was a journey of curiosity. By the time they reached adulthood, every Aethelan possessed a profound, personal understanding of physics, biology, and the affects. For an incredible 90,000 years, Aethel was a near utopia. But their advanced cosmology taught them it couldn't last. They knew the Earth entered cycles of profound change. Around 97,0 years ago, the charts predicted a major global cooling event, the geological dawn of the last great ice age. The warnings were subtle at first. A slight drop in the warm ocean currents, a change in bird migrations. The luminaries knew they couldn't fight the Earth's natural cycle. That would violate the Great Code. Their strategy was not defiance, but preservation. They began their final, most ambitious project, the Vaults of Lumina. These weren't simple bunkers. They were vast, bio-sealed subterranean complexes, designed to house their entire civilization's knowledge, the Great Code, vibrational science, bioalchemy, and the cosmic charts. The goal was to create a time capsule for our new humanity, one that would re-emerge after the long cold, a process they calculated would take over 70 years. The most tragic part was the Great Diaspora. They knew a large, concentrated population couldn't survive the coming changes, so they built massive ocean-going vessels, powered by wind and the magnetic sails, and they began a slow, intentional scattering to the far corners of the world. They would survive in small, isolated groups, intermingling with other early humans, planting the genetic and the ethical seeds of Aethel to survive the long darkness. The final years on Aethel were marked by a profound, peaceful melancholy. As the continental ice sheets crept south, the beautiful, glowing cities began to fail, starved of the energy they needed. The last luminaries watched as the final dispersal ship sailed away. The old continent, once a vibrant heart of enlightenment, began its slow descent beneath the rising, freezing waters. The elders who remained chose to stay, overseeing the final sealing of the Vaults of Lumina. They accepted their fate with stoic clarity, waiting for the ocean and the ice to claim their world. But their legacy did not die. The scattered Aethelan descendants, carrying fragments of their advanced knowledge, ideas of a higher moralo, geometry, and the farming blended with emerging human groups across the globe. Over tens of thousands of years, this knowledge became distorted, evolving into the myths we all know, stories of Allah's golden age, of divine wisdom, and the great flood narratives found in nearly every culture on the planet. The memory of Aethel became a faint whisper, a deep historical yearning for balance and the justice that continues to drive us today. Aethel was lost, but its principles were sewn into the very fabric of humanity. The Vaults of Lumina remain, deep beneath the ocean floor, waiting for a time when humanity has the maturity, the resonance, and the wisdom to rediscover the great code of a forgotten civilization from 97,0 years ago. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If you found this story as fascinating as do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the forgotten chapters of our past. See you next time.